Hello everybody, this is going to be a much more casual video as compared to what you're used to from me. To be frank, I'm still pretty exhausted from the months of working on this project. Your boy's been getting probably 5 hours of sleep a day, if that. But I do want to take the time, while this project is still fresh in my mind, to go over some stuff about it and just kind of talk about why things were the way they were with the project, why I made certain decisions, why things are laid out in the way that they are. This isn't scripted. Usually my content is scripted because I don't know how to speak. But this is going to be like a much more casual video from me. Honestly, I don't think I could write another script right now if I wanted to. We're at that point. So first I'm just going to kind of go over all the different eras, some of my thoughts about them, my thoughts about the video, or rather how that era was portrayed in the video, and really just the project as a whole, along with the voice actors, because they did. I mean, I've said this a million times. I know they're fucking exhausted from hearing it by now, but they really did do a fantastic job. I cannot sing their praises enough. I would encourage you guys to go in that video description and check them out because they're all very talented, and they deserve any recognition that they can get because they're amazing people. They're very talented. So please go check them out. So let's start with the classic era. I tried to kind of go in depth as much as I could with each of these eras in this video. I didn't want to get any era kind of like snubbed out. Like, I wanted to give them each their fair amount of time. But I'm gonna be honest, when it came to the classic series, that's kind of the one that's hardest to talk about. Why? Well, because it was the 80s, and games weren't that complicated back then. Sure, there were a lot of them that had stories, but the stories weren't incredibly complicated, and Mega Man is no exception to that rule. So it was hard to talk about the classic series without it being incredibly repetitive. I tried to make it as interesting as I possibly could. The classic series is hard to talk about because it's just, oh, well, Wily did something again, and he did it again, and he did it 5 more times, and this time, he did it with a costume! So, it doesn't really get much more nuanced than that, really. Sure, there are some plot beats and points here and there, like, I think it was Mega Man 3 that had the energy from, like, space, where he had sent out Robot Masters to, like, collect elemental energy from space to build Gamma. Stuff like that is interesting, but it doesn't happen too often in the classic era of Mega Man. The most interesting story beats are like, you know, Bass being introduced as a character. I guess there's that whole plot twist with Kozak, but even that's kind of just like, you know, it's kind of expected, to be honest. You know, there's Proto Man, there's all that stuff, how Wily got started on his, well, you know, escapades, and that stuff is all interesting, but it doesn't get to... The plot doesn't really get that deep until the X series. So, if I can say anything about the classic series, if I can sum it up, I really like how it came out, although it's a very repetitive part of the timeline. There isn't a lot you can really go into, besides bald old man did it again, you know? The X series was fun, and mind you, before this project began, I didn't just want to read through a Wikipedia. That wasn't satisfying enough for me, because I wanted to make sure that not only did I have all my facts straight, but I wanted to see how things played out. And obviously I grew up with this series, so I had played a lot of these games before, but there were some games, especially some of the X games, that I had missed out on growing up, like X6, X7, thankfully, and X8. I had played all of the ones prior to those before, although I had never beaten them, except for X1 as I was growing up. I think I beat X2 as well. Its memory's kind of fragmented on that, but I did play them quite a lot. So the X series is where it starts to get more interesting. It introduces Zero, which is, you know, favorite character. Couldn't you tell? Couldn't you tell by how long the Zero section is and all the emphasis that I put on Zero? I mean, you can't blame me. The guy's freaking awesome, man. He's definitely the best character in the series, honestly. But the X series was a lot of fun. There were some parts playing through it where I was quite frustrated. I think I even put a segment, like a very small snippet in the video where I'm like, this part sucks. I'm talking about the Doppel Tower because I don't know who designed that level, but it's atrocious. It's not bad enough that there's like insta-kill spikes like all over the place, but then you have to like kill these snails, you have to jump. It was an absolute pain to play through that, I'm not gonna lie. As for the story itself, that's where it kind of goes into, you know, humanity using Reploids for their own gain and to fight their wars and to do this and that. So, you know, it kind of delves more into like the deeper, I mean, I wouldn't really say, I guess, like philosophical topics, but the story does get more complex in the X series for sure. Because, you know, now it was the 90s, so they could actually include animated cutscenes in their games and have voice acting and all that stuff. And oh boy, the English voice acting for X, not that great. Not that great. So what I did was I included the Japanese cutscenes specifically, and I made sure that the subtitles were correct. You know, I checked the Wikipedia, I checked a few sources online to like see if people had translated the Japanese cutscenes before, so I was able to find accurate subtitles, and I just by hand typed those in to make sure, you know, they were accurate. Yeah, I was not going to use the English dub. No chance. No chance. It's terrible. It's so bad. The English dub for, you know, it gets good by X8, which is the last one. But X8, the dub is really, really good. It's perfectly fine in X8. X7, it's terrible. X6, there's a sub, but there's no dub. You know, I guess they had learned their lessons. They had learned their lesson from games prior. So they had just stuck to a Japanese dub for X6. For what it's worth, though, the only game out of the X series that I didn't enjoy was X7, but I think that's pretty unanimous from anyone that's played the X series. It's kind of a... It's really bad. It's really, really bad. There's like nothing else that I can say about it. It's terrible. It's an absolutely terrible game. But thankfully it wasn't that long. It wasn't that long of an experience, so I was able to kind of tear through it in just a few hours. So yeah, the X series did have a little bit more to talk about in terms of story. There's the stuff with Gate in X6, and there's the whole Eurasia thing from X5, which is really cool because it ties into the Zero series. You know, you have the whole you know, thing in X5, or excuse me, 04, where Area 0 is where that like subspace place was when Eurasia crashed in X5. Not only that, but Neo Arcadia is built from the old cannon that they used to try and take down Eurasia. So that's really cool. That's really, really cool. So there's a lot of lore connection there. But the thing is too with the X series, it's also quite a bit repetitive because they just reuse Sigma 8 times. Sure, there's other enemies throughout the series. There's Doppler in X3. There's Lumine in X8, and there's Red Alert in X7, but you always end up fighting Sigma last, except for X8, but even then, Sigma's in, you know, the final act of the game as well. So it really is also like the classic series where they just kind of repeat the same story beats, albeit more interesting. You know, it's not just, oh, Wily did it again, why... There is a little more nuance to it, but it still follows that repetitive formula that the classic series does. So that was another one that was kind of difficult to talk about while trying not to be as repetitive as possible because, you know, again, it's just repeating a lot of the same story beats. So with the Zero series, so for the Zero series, I included voice acting for it, and I was very, very thankful, and I was very, very blessed to have gotten so many talented voice actors on this, because, you know, a lot of people see the end product, but they don't see what goes into it, and just how fickle everything can possibly be. If one of those characters didn't get voice acted, then the voice acting wouldn't have happened at all. But not only did I find someone for all of the roles, but they're also really, really good. So I'm very, very lucky. I'm very, very blessed to, you know, have been able to do that. I'm very happy with how it came out as well because, you know, you got your... It's kind of like you got the best of both... Bleh. The best of both worlds, where you've got the commentary for the timeline, and then you've just got like a straight up anime. like mixed in there, and I think that's really, really cool how it came out. I would have loved to have been able to voice all of the other eras, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you, that would have been fucking impossible for one person to do. It would have been impossible. There's absolutely no way I could have done that, because, you know, then you have to voice Proto Man in the original series, and Bass, and Light, and Wily, Albert, Prometheus, Pandora, Gate, and you have to find a bunch of different voice actors for all these different characters. A lot more editing goes into the voice acted segments. Not to say that the rest of the video isn't edited either. It's also, there's a lot of editing that goes into the rest of it as well, but even more into the voice acted sections. Because I have to get their audio, edit the audio, not to mention I have to write the scripts. There's a lot, and you know, then I still have to find the voice actor to read the script. So there's a lot that goes into it. It would have been impossible to do all of the other series. I would have loved to, but the workload would have been too much, man. There's no other way I can say it. Like, the video would have been probably 3 times as long or 4 times as long as it is now, and I'm gonna be honest, there's no way I would have been able to do it. This project would have never finished, especially since I'm editing all of this solo. It would have never been done. So I tried to find kind of like a happy middle ground where it's like, okay, so I can't do voice acting for all of the sections, but I also don't want to do not do voice acting for any of the sections, because, you know, I do want to make something special, you know. I want to make something memorable. I want to make something, you know, that does justice to the series. So you kind of have to find a middle ground there, where it's like, okay, well, I can't do voice acting for all of them. That would be impossible. I also don't want to not include voice acting at all, because it's a really cool idea, and I think it would come out really good, which it did. So I stuck to the Zero series, because I love the story, and I love the way that the Zero series ends off. It's my personal favorite of the franchise, just as like a personal note. It's the first of the Mega Man series that I ever finished when I was younger. I have a personal connection with it, and I really do think, well, at least personally, that it's really a couple of the best games in the series. So, I mean, what else can I say that I haven't said already about the Zero series? I think it came out fantastic. I think everyone did an absolutely amazing job. It's definitely my favorite segment of the video. So that's kind of what it is. It's like a commentary narration mixed with just an anime slapped in there, bro. And I'm very, very happy with how it came out. The ZX series. ZX. Oh, first the Elf Wars. The Elf Wars. The Elf Wars was difficult because it doesn't have a game, right? So there's no gameplay to use. There's nothing that I could really use in terms of footage for it, so I had to get creative. So instead I just stuck to talking about the backstory of the characters. I tried to give it like a darker, gloomier look, because this is the part in the series where things get more serious. So I tried to go for that like darker atmosphere for it. Something else too is that I had to manually, and I mentioned this in a comment, but I had to manually put in the sound effects for the Zero series. Not for all of them, for most of them though. For most of the cutscenes, for most of the action, for all of the action sequences, I had to put in the sound effects and the ambience. So because of that, the sound effects might not sound perfect. I didn't exactly have the entirety of the sound library available to me, so I had to get creative for some of the sound effects. Like, for example, the ground rumbling and shaking, for example, during the departure scene, I had to find a, you know, like one of those copyright-free sound effects. I had to put it into Audacity, bit crush it, so it would sound like it was coming from the game, and then add it in manually. I also did the same with all of the character voices, so, you know, I had to pick whichever take was correct. I had to pick whichever take I liked the most, and then kind of put everything all together, or bit crush the entire thing, and then do it that way, so it sounded like all of the voices and all the sound effects were coming out of a Game Boy. I wanted to capture that feeling as if it was coming from the actual game itself. So maybe in some sequences it's not perfect. I tried my best though. It's my first time using a bit crusher, so it might not have been perfect, but I certainly tried my best with it. I also tried something with CopyX for the third game, because the idea is that since he blew himself up in the first game, and since he got really messed up from Zero's fight with him, he sort of had like an error in his speech program, whatever you want to call it, so he wasn't able to talk properly. So I wanted to give him that feeling where his voice was slightly more mechanical and distorted, because he's not functioning properly. He was repaired by Wheel, but the repair wasn't perfect, so he had some defects to him, so he had that speech issue where he couldn't really talk properly. So I wanted to make it sound more robotic, more distorted, and I tried to add a sound effect into the recording, sort of like a glitch sound effect whenever he would stutter on his words, just to give him kind of like an idea of, almost like a record scratching, when it kind of like repeats like the same part of a song, kind of like that same sort of thing. I wanted to kind of mimic that sort of sound with it, so I went in manually and added the glitch into each of them, and hopefully that sounded okay. It sounded a bit odd, the glitch sound effect, when I was watching it through in my editing program, but thankfully it kind of like leveled out afterwards, so I think it came out fine. I also did something similar for Omega and the Baby Elves. Since they're sort of supposed to be, corrupted and, everything else, I wanted to give them that monstrous sort of voice, especially with Omega. So I put an effect on the Baby Elves for, Lachi's voice, and I made it so it kind of like has a double effect to it, where one is deeper and then just her regular voice echoed. The same thing with Omega, but a bit different, so that it sounds more monstrous. And I think I'm really happy with the result. In one way, it was a pain to add all the music back in, but I'm really happy that I was able to do that, because it gave me the ability to choose when music does and doesn't happen, rather than just relying on the game's audio. So the voice acting was so good, and that scene where Zero is talking to Wheel in the end of 03 is no exception. So I was able to let the voice actors carry it with their voices, just kind of carry the silence, because silence is also a tool for storytelling. It's really good. So I really wanted the music to just hit when Omega appeared. So I waited for that roar. And by the way, Jazz, the voice for Zero, and he also voiced Omega, which is difficult, it kills your throat. But he did it, man, and he did it so well. And I was able to add the music in when he did that huge roar, and it oh man, it hits you in the gut. Out of that whole sequence, that's personally my favorite part, when the music hits and there's that huge scream from Jazz's Omega. It's amazing. I love that part. I love it. I must have repeated that part watching it like 15 times. I love it. It's so good. ZX and ZX Advent. So these were a couple other games that I also played when I was younger. Really enjoyed them. People always say that the voice acting in Advent is really bad. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's okay. There's a few characters. There's a few characters where the voice acting is a bit questionable. But for the most part, I think it's pretty okay. As for the games themselves, they're pretty fun. It's just more Metroidvania, Mega Man goodness. As for the story, I like how it connects Zero to ZX with Alouette now taking the lead in the Guardians, and how CL made all of the different models and such. I do wish that we had gotten ZXC though. I would have loved to have seen how that. I would have loved to have seen how that reset happens into the Legends series. I kind of had this bit going during the ZX segment where I refused to name Prometheus and Pandora, instead just naming them, just whatever duo I can throughout the video. So you got Mario and Luigi, Sonic and Tails, Dante and Trish, Shrek and Donkey at some point. So I kind of had a bit going with that. And then there's Legends. So Legends was one of the series that I'd always heard about, and people were talking about Legends. They wanted Legends 3. I'd heard about it so much, but I'd never played it growing up. So when I was playing through all of the games before the video, this was actually my first time playing through Legends. And honestly, they were fantastic. For Legends 2 though, I wasn't a huge fan of some of the gameplay. I don't know if it's just because I was playing it on emulator. Maybe there was like some emulation issues. but there were some segments where I kind of struggled. I was also dealing with a broken controller though, so it's probably partially due to the controller. I do like though that the story is basically just One Piece mixed with Gurren Lagann before Gurren Lagann had, even happened. The whole thing about killing all the people on the surface and keeping the population low. That's just an exact story beat from Gurren Lagann. Spoilers, I guess, for a 15-year-old anime. Yeah, the story was great. Voice acting was really good. Love the music. I understand the hype now. I'm very sad that Legends didn't get a sequel. Very sad. I don't think it's ever going to happen either. So, That was a part that was kind of difficult to edit because I wasn't really sure if, I'm not sure how many cutscenes to include. I want to include the important ones so people can kind of see what's going on and get the context. What parts to kind of show and less tell, and then what parts I should kind of, break through it with narration. So I was trying to find a nice balance with it. But, it's kind of difficult too because there's just so much talking in the Legend series. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of exposition. I try to include the Bonds as much as I can because I absolutely love the Bonds. They're great enemies. I love them. They're really great. Also, some of the names were just impossible. Some of the names were kind of complicated to say when reading off the script. It's like the Gieselshaft and some of the other ones, they were a bit difficult to pronounce, but, If I can say something else about Legends, something that I noticed about it pretty much right away is that it's a product of its time, and I mean this in the best way possible. It has that 90s, very early 2000s anime mood about it, both in the music, the sound design, and really the overall feel of it, the pacing. What I really enjoy about it is that it takes its time letting you know the characters, and really it takes its time to tell a story. It's not like a lot of media nowadays where they have to rush in guns a-blazing and make everything action-packed off the start. It really does take its time in introducing everything, and I think that's what makes the entire experience more memorable, because it gives you time to get to know the characters and to get to know where you are and what you're doing, and it makes it sort of like a lived experience, I think that's probably why so many people love the Legends series. And you could sing its praises for a bunch of different reasons, but at the risk of making a pretty heavy assumption, I can definitely see why people like it in the sense that, or love it rather, in the sense that it really does take its time with pacing. And it does feel like a living, breathing world. It's not just throwing a million things at you at once and then expecting you to do backflips. It's introducing itself slowly. One of the more memorable things for me personally was heading underground for the first time and there being no music. That's pretty startling. For the way the game looks and the characters look, you'd expect a more carefree atmosphere, but it was genuinely scary in those underground sections. And not scary in the sense that you think you're going to get jump scared, but scary in the sense that it's like an almost existential dread that you feel in those underground sections that really... Yeah, I don't know. I really, really liked it. I'm part of the crowd now that is really saddened that Legends 3 wasn't a thing. Or at least it didn't finish in order to be a thing, From the very start of the project, I knew that I wanted to make the credits song Esperanto. It's always been one of my favorite songs from the series, as I know it is for a lot of people as well. It's very special. So I wanted to not only include the song, but I wanted to make sort of something that captures the essence of the video to where it goes through each era, and I ended up using a few remixes that I had found, and by the way, they're absolutely wonderful remixes. Along with everything else, those are also linked in the description. So I was very lucky to have found those tracks, and I think the credits definitely benefited from that. all in all, I'm more than satisfied with the way that it came out. So there really isn't a whole lot to say really in detail. It was a difficult project. It was a long project. Pulled a lot of very late nights that went into early mornings and sometimes early afternoons. But I'm very thankful to have been able to work with a lot of very talented people, a lot of very kind and talented people, and to be able to make something that I consider very special, and I hope it, maybe it can be special for you guys too. I poured every bit of my energy into this video, as I've said a few times already. It was a difficult project. It was worth doing it. I would do it again if I had to, for sure. This is one of those videos that I think at the end of your YouTube career or whatever, you can look back and say like, yeah, man, I made that. I feel like everyone kind of has that, like at the end of their, at the end of their career, at the end of, something you can look back and be proud of. And this is definitely, this is one of those videos for me, for sure. I'll always remember, not just the video itself, but the process. It was like, maybe this is being a bit over dramatic, but it was kind of like a journey going through this, working on it every single day and meeting all these great people and working on this day and night and really just trying to make something that people, would be able to enjoy as much as I do and translate the passion that I have for these series and these stories into video form. And it's difficult to do, and I don't always do it perfectly. I don't always do it the best, but I give it my fucking best, man. I give it my best. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you've watched it, if you haven't watched it yet, I do hope you enjoy it. And maybe at some point I'll definitely do another video like this in the future. I'd love to be able to. There's a few series that I still want to make timeline videos for. In fact, there's quite a lot of them. It's just the problem is I need to do them sparingly, both because they take a long time to make and also for my body. But there's gonna be more videos like this in the future, God willing. There's gonna be more, and I'm gonna do my best to make more of them. I don't want to say what series I have planned. And spoilers, by the way, if you haven't watched the video yet, kind of just, mute me for a few seconds or something. But at some point, I will be making that Battle Network video along with Star Force. That's gonna take a while though, because I haven't played through all the Star Force games or Battle Network. So we know how I do things. I have to play through the games first. So they're RPGs. It's gonna take a while, but maybe sometime next year I'll work on those. I don't know what big video I'm gonna work on next. It probably won't be for a while, and I'm just gonna probably focus on making smaller things for a bit, shorts and maybe some smaller videos. I'm just gonna work on smaller projects for a while, though I do have more stuff with timelines and voice acting and stuff planned. But I am gonna take a break from it just for a bit, so I can kind of get my bearings and get things back on schedule and just make more smaller videos for you guys and just get back to what we were doing before. So again, I can't thank you enough if you watched through the full video, or if you're planning to. Thank you so very much for watching, and for all those that have worked with me on this project, thank you so much for a final time for putting up with me and working on this. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Here's the bloopers.
Come on, CL, Zero must be very tired. I know you have lots to catch up with him, but... Now listen, Zero. Being that you're my neighbor and I like you, I was thinking you could have some propane as the new weapon, and you can use it to stop the Mother Elf and her gosh dang plans galaxy-wide. What do you say to that? And say hi to the Silver Surfer for me.
Welcome to our resistance base, Zero. This is a shelter for injured Fuck! Why is it so wordy? It's not even that wordy. It's just that it's my fault.
Oh yes, I have just gotten back from kicking a bunch of puppies and then throwing them in the river. Yes, and I did not poke holes in the bag. Oh, I'm so bad.
Lucille, please cheer up. Everything's turned alright before, hasn't it? Turned out alright before. God damn it. Okay.
The rebels were labeled oh my gosh. Perhaps too well. No! Break me!
Okay, so there's... I should not be laughing so hard for something so stupid. I feel like a 2-year-old. There's a really... I'm losing my mind, bro. I'm losing my shit. There's like... There's one small moment with a piece of that I thought of doing an edit with, but if I do, it completely just derails it. You can't take it seriously at all if I do this. But hold on, I don't know if this thing is even recording correctly. Oh man, I hope it is. I never use OBS. Okay.
Listen to this secret line. According to the IT signal, it's from Commander Alvito. Switch it to the main monitor.
Bro is like staring into that shit.
They called me Mr. Seahorse 200 years ago. I'm the only one of my kind of this special incubator. None of the other units got it. Wow, that guy, he... chicken fucker, but he had some good points. Parenthood has been more amazing than I ever could have imagined. It's truly given my life more dimensions than just fighting every day. I will protect me and X's child. As the children of Zero.
What the fuck?
They were unable to come rescue you. Fucking dickheads. Seriously, like it took you guys a year to save Zero? You all suck.
Why didn't you terminate me? Are you showing me mercy? How rude! I seem to have run out of air. And you would think as Leviathan I could breathe underwater, but, I guess not. Farewell.
The humans to The rebels were labeled as... I can't read. Many have started to flee the city. City. We are one of those groups fleeing from the clutches of Dr. Whale. Oh my gosh. We are one of those groups fleeing from the clutches of Dr. Wheel in our caravan. I almost said whale again. We are one of those groups fleeing from the clutches... We are one of those groups fleeing from the... Flum? What the... The humans are afraid of being removed if they oppose Whale. The humans are being afraid... Come on.
So, why don't you just hop on down to Wendy's and get some Denny's as well?
Oh yes, you are the person who forgot to give me hot sauce with my taco. Oh, I am going to complain to the manager about you.
CL decides to tag along with our hero in order to disable the bomb. CL decides to tag along with our hero in order to CL decides to tag along with our hero in order to
I swear to God, if the next words out of Twink's mouth was, I'd like to ask you out on a date, I could personally retire him myself. I could probably beat him in a fight. Those noodle arms are doing shit!